I honestly could not believe the turn of events. So I finally left my ex at long last, reconnected with my twin flame, and I was due to see him again in a couple of weeks in what was going to be my favourite city, Bristol. It was cold, I wasn't feeling well, but I got to spend some time with my twin flame. I was telling him about my art mentor Bridget and the paintings that I've been doing and how she was personally teaching me a 400-year-old technique called the Miche technique, and he said, that sounds a bit wrong. And I was still talking to my ex for the whole of that year, unfortunately, and he said afterwards, well, he probably thought it was some sort of sexual deviation. Ooh! And then a little bit later on, I was dancing. The twin flame was right there. It was really crowded. And at one point I glanced over to him. I was quite close. And I noticed he was looking at me through narrowed eyes and smiling. And as soon as I looked, he looked away and wouldn't look back. But certainly felt pretty damn good. And I saw him again 3 weeks later, also in Bristol. And I had decided, right, he's off limits, he's out of bounds, got to be enough just to be near him. And he was flirting with me all night. He couldn't take his eyes off me. Every time I looked at him, he looked away. And so I was minding my own business. I was dancing, I spun around. I caught him hiding behind these two screens. There was a little gap like that between the screens. I just found myself eyeball to eyeball with his beady little eyes. And he knew he'd been rumbled and took a step back. But I liked the way that this was going. A few days after that, I was talking to him on Messenger and I told him that I was going to be on the telly. It's a show called Question Time in the UK where there's a load of politicians and journalists on a panel and members of the audience can ask them questions. And I was telling my twin flame about this and he said, so what's your question? Is it about tantric sex? Yeah, I didn't respond because I was too busy falling off my chair. It was so obvious what was happening, that we were getting closer and closer, but I would absolutely not allow myself to believe it. And that felt so bad. No, this ain't happening. I don't believe it. Notice the pattern. Not believing it had been an ongoing problem all the way through. However, other stuff started happening over that spring and summer. I hadn't worn makeup for 16 years. Not since a bad breakup back in 1996. So I decided to do a makeup and beauty course. Obviously, I'd have to apply it differently to how I did when I was a teenager. I also did a pole dancing course. Something was telling me I had to learn to dance sexy for my man. I was buying cocktail dresses, really getting in touch with my feminine side for the first time ever. And I had a really nice time over the summer. Basically starting an entire new life with my new friends. I was seeing my twin flame on a regular basis and it felt really, really good. And after the summer, the autumn set in and things started to shift. So we're at the end of October 2012. It was the weekend that the clocks went back. I went to a huge event and my twin flame came on right at the end. And I was dressed sexy. When he saw me, I saw his face light up. And as we were leaving, he said, oh, you look after yourself, you take care of yourself. Safe drive home, you take care of yourself, you look after yourself. It felt really, really nice. I had a really lovely interaction with him. When I got home, a day later or so, I was chatting to him on Messenger again, and I really, really wanted to quote some Rumi to him, and I finally managed it. It was the most obscure quote that I could find. I don't know if he understood it, but it was certainly effective. The quote was, I was wrought I became mature and cooked. I was burnt into nothingness. And it was definitely affected because he wanted to all of a sudden talk about that night in 2008 when I went down to his town and tantric sex. And I said, well, you remembered it wrong. I didn't ask you about tantric sex. I asked if I could tie you up. And he said, what would you have done? Huh? What would you have done? Huh? Tell me what you want to do to me. Come on! Details! Details! And the book of poems fell out of me hand. So my relationship with him all of a sudden changed.